I think the story of Grace is kind of unconventional. I mean, I don't think me or Kelly, ever thought about going into ministry. It was really not in our hearts. I mean, we always wanted to, and I wanted to, serve in the churches that we were a part of, but going into formal ministry was not something on the horizon for us. In fact, Kelly was headed to law school, and I was headed to medical school, and we were kind of designing a life around that. We thought that was gonna be great, but God had other plans. I think it was just God pushing and pushing and pushing, and over time, I started listening and yielding and saying, God, I'm open to this if this is what you want me to do. And before you knew it, we were planting a church.
We have a church. This is a church. All right, this is great.
I think when we started Grace, we weren't really aware of all the challenges that would be ahead. And I honestly think that was part of God's plan, because if we knew everything that was going to happen, I think it would be impossible for us to have done it. So we started Grace, and we did it without any kind of demographics or planning or, all the things that people do to actually start a church. We just stepped forward. Why? Because we knew that God was calling us to be obedient. We didn't know how we were supposed to start a church. We didn't know what we were doing, but we just knew that we were supposed to start a church. We had some challenging times for sure, but God showed up and he was faithful. So many people in Central Florida are de-churched, and the gospel and church has gotten a bad reputation. We have seen people who are struggling in a way that we haven't seen. I mean, I've been a pastor for 25 years, and I haven't seen people struggling the way they are now. And so Grace has basically two strategies behind the scenes. So if our mission is to help people take their next step toward Christ, the vision of accomplishing that is through teaching and healing. And so teaching, what we mean by that basically is teaching people the gospel. We believe that true healing comes first and foremost through a relationship with Jesus. And I think that one of the ways in which we restore the reputation of the church in Central Florida is by solving practical problems that people have. So we're starting counseling centers at each one of our campuses. And so we have a big vision for counseling in Central Florida. We want to put together classes for marriages. We want to put classes together for those who are struggling with addictions, those who are going through divorces. And so we want to provide those services and those things that will help people take their next step toward Christ. So in other words, if somebody's struggling and they're going through a hard season, and they're with their marriage, or they've got a trauma that takes place in their life, I want them to think, where do you go for help? You go to Grace Church for help.
We will be one of the churches here in Central Florida that will stand against the decline. They will stand for doing the good, expecting the good, and proclaiming the good in Central Florida. That's who we're gonna be as a church. We're gonna continue to help people take their next step toward Christ. We're gonna focus on the word of the Lord. We're not gonna get distracted by social problems. We're not gonna get distracted by politics. What we're gonna do is we're gonna focus on Jesus and how Jesus restores and heals and renews broken hearts. This is what we're gonna do.
We want Grace to be a refuge and a sanctuary for people in Central Florida. We want them to be able to come to a place where they can grow emotionally and spiritually and be transformed and take their next step toward Christ.
Our hope is people go, man, Grace is a place of healing and teaching and help and hope.
That's a ministry we want to spread to the rest of our community, into Winter Garden and Oviedo and Orlando and really all of Central Florida.
One of the things that we're going to need to do that is expansion. And so we're starting something this fall called the Good Initiative. And the Good Initiative is a 2-year giving initiative. Through the Good Initiative, we're going to accomplish several things. Number one, an Oviedo building. They've been portable for 10 years. And this is going to be a great opportunity for them to expand and reach more people to help them take their next steps toward Christ. We'll also have a fully staffed Winter Garden campus. Also, we'll be taking the Circle building next door to the Orlando campus. We'll be converting it to the Center for Teaching and Healing at Grace Church. We're really excited about that. It's going to make a huge difference. It's going to be a place where counseling is accomplished, weddings, funerals. Also, we're going to have the opportunity to train new counselors. We'll also be supporting all the ministry that happens over the next 2 years with the general budget and the enhanced giving, which will help us be able to accomplish all of these things and so much more. Our goal here is 100% participation, and I'm asking you to be all in. I want everyone to pray over and come up with one number that you can give over the next 2 years. Now, that number would be your current giving plus any expanded generosity that God is calling you to. If we all do this together, we believe that we can reach our goal of $30 million. Grace was founded on the idea of obedience. And what God did was he showed up in some powerful ways. He established the church. He's been with us for the last 20 years. And I believe that this time is no different.
I love that our primary goal is 100% engagement, because what we really want is we want transformation. We want our hearts transformed. And I think if everyone in our church does that, we're gonna see huge life transformation.
And so this is a huge deal. Like, we're actually wanting to help people go from death to life, go from lacking hope to having healing and this touch that only Jesus can fix. And so we're literally pulling in all 3 campuses to say, how can we do good in our community, in Oviedo, Winter Garden, Winter Springs, Orlando, all the surrounding areas. And it's going to be amazing to see what God does through this initiative.
In a world that is increasingly divided and hostile, Christians stand out when we do good, when we are expecting the good in the life of someone else, when we are proclaiming that Jesus is Lord and that He's King, that one day, ultimately, all things will be healed in and under Him. That's the hope that we have in the future. But it's not some distant future, guys. This is who we are now and who the church will be tomorrow.
When we just look at these past 2 years and how much this church has grown and how many blessings this church has received, I can only imagine within the next 2 years what Grace Church is going to look like.
I am excited about the Good Initiative and the way our generosity can continue to build into people's lives, and the way that we can have an impact on our community.
I want to take like a serious look at God's generosity towards me and my family. And I want to take a serious look at my response to that generosity. What does that look like?
And that's going to challenge us spiritually. Like, it's going to cause sacrifice. It's going to cause us to dig deep inside and go, man, are there idols in the way of me taking my next step towards Christ?
Everyone has a step to take, whether you've been at Grace for just a couple of weeks or you've been here since the doors open. Everyone has a step. And we want to take steps towards Him in every area. And so the Good Initiative is helping us in that mindset of just, we're not going to become comfortable and we're not going to get lazy and we're not going to get complacent. We're going to keep taking steps towards Him.
It gives me peace knowing that this is a worthwhile investment of our time and resources, because it's something that will last forever.
When you look back at the history of Grace Church, there's so many big moments, so many big chapters, so many big things where we said, you know what? After this, after God showed up in this way, we were never the same. I think the Good Initiative is going to be that for us as well. I think once we get through it, we're going to look back and say, wow, God did this, and God did this, and God did this. And Grace Church will never be the same.
I believe as we go through this giving initiative, God is going to show up and help us to reach our goal. And as we reach that goal, it's going to help Grace to be a place where people can come for teaching and for healing, for restoration, a place to find a haven, a church that's safe for them. And if we do all those things, good is ahead.